Hola, good afternoon, good evening, bonsoir. So my name is Christian Rouffaer, and I'm here representing the International Committee of the Red Cross. Just a short disclaimer, if you hate what I'm going to say, and just don't flood the Spanish Red Cross with messages. The Spanish Red Cross and the International Committee of the Red Cross is the same family of organizations, but it's not the same organization, okay? So just because the last time there was a little controversy, well, all the Red Crosses all over the planet received tons of messages, and well, that was my fault, not the American Red Cross or the Spanish Red Cross and others. So yeah, please, I will give you my email at the end, feel free. So yeah, the title is a bit provocative, but basically the title is not really for me. The title was written by a journalist in 2011 after we did a little, it was a side event, it was a small thing on the side of an international conference about many different topics. And it was written that I said that 6 million players were virtual war criminals. And the things exploded all over the planet, as you can imagine. So when Ivan asked me to bring a topic, I said, well, that might be an interesting one. Because of course, since 2011 and today, there's a lot of things that happened. And as mentioned, these cooperations with Bohemia Interactive Studio. But first, I just have to explain what is the International Committee of the Red Cross. It's a very old organization. So it was basically created in 1859 by Henri Dunant. As you can see, probably a gamer. Now he was a banker. And he was shocked when he visited the Battle of Solferino by the amount of violence, because there was no rules. Everybody was killing each other without any rules. Wounded were left in the battlefield dying. There was torture. There was everything. And he was so shocked that he went back home in Switzerland, in Geneva, and he created the International Committee of the Red Cross with the idea that we can provide assistance to victims of armed conflict, at the time, especially soldiers, military, and on a neutral and independent way. One of our, so that, we have a pointer, no? One of our, part of our mandates is to prevent suffering by promoting and strengthening humanitarian law and universal principles. It's a bit longer, but what is interesting to keep in mind is that everything we do is connected to conflict and situation of violence. So we don't do blood collection. We are not a charity organization. It's all about conflict. Bit of information. So it's a rather large organization. You can see we are in 87 countries, more than, I think now it's even larger because this is all information, probably about 15,000 staff all over the planet. So when I said it's not like the Spanish Red Cross, most of the activities in Spain, we are international. And we have a current budget of 2 billion Swiss franc, dollars, we're the same, doesn't matter. So yeah, we're not an NGO. We have a mandate granted by states. And most of our money comes from states, not from private donors. So why do we care? Why I'm here? I'm saying it is one of the big questions. This is a statistic from 2011. And this was done by the American Red Cross, by the way. And the thing is interesting. It's old. Huh? It's the time where we started the project on video game. As you can see, there's some questions related to armed conflict. And what is interesting is that in red, it's what the youth below 18, the answer, if they say it's correct or not. The first one, it's deliberately attacking religious or historic monuments. Is that okay? And 6% of the people answered, yes, it's okay. So basically, it's a big no-no. Don't attack religious symbols. But when it comes to torturing captured enemy soldier, 59% of people under 18 said, It's fine. It's okay. Doesn't matter. Same for starving the population. Starving the population, 37% said, that's fine. No problem. And of course, the big question was, well, there's a little bit of a problem here. And I think when Ivan talked about the maturity of the video game and video game industry, it's because the video game industry now is considered as a media. The same way television, radio, cinema, and for us, exactly the same. It's a media. It's a vehicle to pass information. It's entertaining, the same way cinema is entertaining, but it's no different than that. So for us, video game is just a media to pass information. And this is the way we approach video game. I would like to show you now a few videos, because I think it's important for you to understand the way we perceive and we see video games. So what I did is that, I have to remember the name, I took some gameplay footage of recent games, because I had to update my presentation from 2011. It's not the same game, it's not the same situation. So I went to YouTube, downloaded some gameplay footage of recent games, and I'm going to put them on screen, and I will explain to you the way we see it.
Interrogation, 3, 2, 1.
Yemen.
Hey, hold on. Please don't kill me. At least let me get this. Interrogation.
Nice.
Doing that. Interrogation, guys. Interrogation. Interrogation. 3, 2, 1.
So it's microwave gaming, just for the record. So what is interesting here? What is interesting is you have a cross symbol. It's not very visible, but it's something that is pretty universal. So when the person is down, is wounded, then above his head, there is a cross, and there is a kind of a counter. It's funny because it's something that is pretty universal. A cross is not considered by anybody in games to be a religious symbol. It's a health symbol. But it's coming from somewhere. And this somewhere is what Mr. Henri Dunant created 150 years ago, the Red Cross. And you probably read a few things about the Red Cross and game developer receiving letters from the British Red Cross and others saying, we noticed that there's a Red Cross in your game. Would you mind remove it? And some people said it's fair. Some others say, no, it's a scandal. What is important to understand is that the Red Cross I have on my back here is just an indication of my employer. This has absolutely no value in terms of protection. But of course, in time of conflict, it's something extremely important. If you go to Syria, if you go to Iraq and Afghanistan, if you go to Mogadishu, there's a lot of things attached to the Red Cross and the protection of the Red Cross. It's something that is a protective symbol. I've been in Afghanistan. I work in Yemen. I work in Syria. I work in many other countries where the Red Cross was the symbol of, okay, I will get protection, and I'm going to be attacked. Still happening, but this is what you put on hospital to indicate this is a safe place. And what is interesting in games is that, in one hand, there's this desire not to, use the Red Cross. So you have the white cross, the green cross, the pink cross, the whatever cross, okay? But everybody understands what it means. It means health, or it means Red Cross. I saw recently a video, a game trailer, and it was World War II, and there was this nice, tense hospital, and on top of it, there was a giant white cross on a red background, so basically the Swiss flag. I'm Swiss. And I said, damn, that's a shame, because we have no problem as an organization to see the Red Cross in games, as long as it's used properly, as long as, the context is right. Yeah, use the Red Cross. If you play Arma 3, you have the red crystal. The red crystal is all over medical vehicles and stuff in Arma 3, because we work together, we discuss about that, the context is right, maybe the gameplay is not perfect, but at least they try. Now, in the little clip I just showed you, there is a very important point, is torture. Because basically what this player is doing with other people is getting information by either threatening them or, having physical pressure on them. And this is an interesting thing. When I started playing video game, when I was 13, 14, there was no such thing as torture in games. It's quite a recent development. And we have seen, well, the list of games with torture element in it is quite big. You have two different ways of presenting torture inside game. You have the non-interactive, you are the victim. So as a player, you are the victim of torture. This is the more recent developments. But you have all the other side where you were asked as a player to torture other characters in game. And this is something, of course, we have concern about. It's the blurring of the line of what is legal or not. The next one is very famous.
Please, look at me, please.
Now, if you open real wide, I might be able to just reach right back there and grab one of those big ones.
Not the flyers. Are they still alive?
Best way to make a man talk is to stop him being able to talk.
He chain smokes and he's left-handed.
Okay.
Okay. You know this, GTA, you know the mission. It's always a lot of talk about that. Okay. Do you think we have any issue with the torture in this video? If you think that we have an issue with the torturing of the guy, if you think this is the main point, please raise your hand. Okay, not the majority. I think you are feeling the trap. Okay, yeah, there's a trap. Okay, compared to the other example, where the guy was out of combat, on the floor, cannot defend himself, the guy come and say, give information, basically it is, and then finishing the guy. And this one, there is a major difference. In this clip, you basically play a criminal, right? I think. Well, I play. Sorry, I stopped after 3 GTA. I haven't played this one. So you play a criminal. You don't play, like in the first clip, a member of the special police in Brazil from the army, the military police. So everything is taken from the right context. In the first clip, you play a policeman or the military police. You play someone that represents law and order in a country, in a real country. In this second clip, you play a criminal. What we have a problem with is that, and honestly, GTA is it's a good cynical things. The mission is all about the governments. It's doing all kind of shit. They want to take information out. They can shoot someone. So extrajudicial killing, blah blah blah. There's a lot of humor inside. I mean, it's really trying to mock, real governments and real situation. And I probably got that. And it's pretty funny. Everybody gets shocked with the torture scene. But for us, what is more a problem is that you have at the end, and even throughout the mission, this guy that represents the government. And he's giving instruction. So he's a representative of the state. He's supposed to abide by the law, hiring a criminal to commit an illegal act. So, I look at the torture scene and say, okay, we do game development in my team, so I look at it as a more technical aspect of it. But the actual torture thing, it's not really an issue here. It's more about this question of what is the state role in this kind of situation. And this is, I mean, you know that torture is illegal and in any circumstances, and by the way, it's also not working. But it's always, we believe, important to repeat that. Let's see another clip. I will go fast. Come on.
This is my favorite clip of the video. Can the syringe still stab people? The answer is yes, and I'm gonna go on a massacre right here. A 5+ kill streak with only the syringe. You can stab so fast with the syringe. It was a one-shot kill. This is probably going to be patched in the final version of the game. You're gonna see me spam stab. This is like physically impossible to do. And with a knife stabbing to the face, like a front view, as you've seen earlier, it took 3 stabs to kill someone. With the syringe, it was a one-shot. So the syringe still does work. I know it's a fan favorite for funny moments and stuff like this, and it's actually really effective on this map in particular because everyone's looking towards the water.
Okay, but by the way, the other video was GTS series video, and this one is made by White Boy 7 Streets. Okay, gameplay video. The game is not finished. As I say, it might be patched, but was present also in the other game. So what do we have here? So we have the Red Cross all over the place, okay? Because it's the medic gameplay, you know, medical, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you have this clear indication that this person is here as a combat medic or medical doctor, whatever. Is equipped with a syringe that the primary role is to help his comrades. Makes sense, okay? That's the role of a medic on the battlefield. But because it's fun, let's kill people with the same syringe. So with your ally, you make them alive again, and with your enemy, you one-shot them by poisoning them. How to say, okay? Again, it's a game, so who cares? I mean, it's not so important. It's a pile of pixels running after each other, making noise. I mean, even if it's wonderfully made, it's just a game. Okay, the problem for us is, can we not just kind of be slightly more respectful for what doctors are doing on battlefields, because they are bloody hell risking their life to help whether the enemy combatant is wounded or their own allies, you know, on a way that is, you know, without distinction of race and anything. Okay, this is what they do. This is they are trained to do in real life, and I think maybe we can show a little bit more respect in games for people that are actually in real life trying to do the job, risking their own life to do it. And I think this is not necessarily helping a lot. In terms of realism, okay, again, it's a game, it's not realistic. I got a shot of morphine in my butt when I was in Kosovo with Army. I can tell you, I was enjoying it very much, and I had no desire to go out and kill other people. So yeah, I think maybe we can have us in games that every time you take a shot of morphine or something, you know, your environment is pink and beautiful. So my point is to say, again, you are game developers. You know, create scenarios and everything. And again, you are completely free to do whatever you want. And we have absolutely no problem with that. Now, again, maybe you would like to play a role, and a positive role, and something that's convey a message that, you know, is positive. There's millions of ways to do it on a positive way without changing the gameplay too much. And the last one, maybe my favorite.
Die together. Shut the fuck up and die.
Ooh, this game, there was a lot of stuff written about this game. You know, this should be removed from Steam. This game is too awful. This game is just, you know, telling people to go and massacre everybody. Okay, but the message is very clear. in this game. Very, very clear. If you are a guy, you take a gun, you go out, you start shooting people, the police will run after you and try to arrest you or kill you. It's super easy. This is super simple. This is very basic, and this is very true. In GTA, if you steal a car, the police will chase you and try to arrest you, right? But when we start talking about video games on conflict, war, not about stealing cars, and we talk about consequences of action, whoa, no, we cannot do that. Come on, we can do it with games where you have criminals and the police, it is consequences to your actions. When we come to military things, no, we cannot do that. Yeah, I would say, why not? Okay, let's talk about the controversy. Let's go back 2011. This is what was in the press. Yeah, there was NBC News, there was tons of articles. Things were really, really interesting. Tweets, and we have statistics, and it's like nobody ever talked about the Red Cross that much in that year than at that time. And this is the reason I'm here today, and that's the reason now I have a department in Bangkok with 10 people doing game development. Because suddenly the ICRC realized that, oh, people do have an interest in this topic. And, wow, maybe talking video game is also a way to pass messages and to explain stuff. So let's push a little bit more. So again, thank you very much. The reason I could live my dream of working on video game and video game development, it's because of, journalists and the entire gaming community. Now, war crimes, because it was the big topic. 6 million players are war criminals. I never said that. We never said that. It was just, please, trust me. This is a little list of what is a war crime. Killing civilians internationally, prisoner torture, destroying civilian property, taking hostages, perfidy, rape, using child soldier, pillaging, declaring no quarter. We had a good discussion with Bohemia Interactive about this part, because there was in Arma 2 there was a scenario when the mission was attack these things because there is like group of insurgents and leave no, take no prisoner. And we have a very interesting discussion about this point. And a lot of the stuff that I can leave you check on Wikipedia about more technical terms. But this is what is to be a war criminal. Must be in a conflict, cannot be a civilian war criminals in a non-conflict situations, and you should do this kind of stuff. And again, Wikipedia, you have all you need. And this is 2017. So in 2011, ICRC was accused of all kind of stuff, and this is a sample of what happened in 2017, the last year. As you can see, the tone is slightly different. Suddenly, well, the law of war, also called International Humanitarian Law, it's not necessarily too much a problem anymore. Maybe we can start talking about the law in a game, like it's in GTA about stealing car, it's bad. Maybe we can talk in games about, breaking some other laws, the law of armed conflict. You heard about the Geneva Convention? Okay, that was created by Henri Dunant and his successor. So this is where it's coming from, most of it. And let's just watch the trailer video. I shorted it.
We don't live in a world without conflict. We're not here to stop it. But we do have responsibilities. War does have rules. That's why we're here. Moral responsibility to ID your targets. Rule 1, only engage combatants. Yes, technology's advanced greatly. Combined arms forces can communicate effectively. But the situation can change, sometimes unexpectedly. Rule 2, avoid civilian casualties. Even in a conflict, even when the situation is desperate, some things remain under the protection of the laws of war. Rule 3. Respect protective symbols at cost. Destruction must be proportional to what your mission requires. Rule 4. Limit collateral damage. Actions have consequences.
So this is the trailer video of the Law of War DLC that Bohemia Interactive Studio released last year for Arma 3. It's very clear. It's about law of war. There's no way around it. And what they did, and they did most of the job, I only been present to advise them. You know, this fictional NGO inside. It's a bit of a copy-paste of what ICRC is doing in the fields with the military, teaching the law and so on. They did a very good job of capturing the essence of what is the law of war for a game that is like Arma 3 talking about conflict without spoiling the fun or the gameplay. And that's the main point. They released a statistic about the mini campaign. So, okay, how many players? 64 people, 1,000 people played. And you remember the statistic, before in 2011. If you look at here, you have like 19% did not steal the ambulance to use as a barricade. Yeah, using ambulances to create, blockade and stuff, not necessarily a good thing. So only less than 20%, respected that. I voted the IDP doctor deaf. Okay, so 80% of the players killed the poor doctor. 74% did a mission without, as a civilian, taking arms. So it's quite a big rate for a combat game that people say, I'm not going to take the weapon in the scenario because of the consequence. Interesting. Or 49% did not execute wounded enemy combatants. It's not very different than the statistic from 2011. It's kind of a bit similar, but I think it's still relevant. So very interesting stat, like most people believe that everybody all the parties in the games have something to do about the suffering of the people in this mini campaign, which is also quite interesting about who to blame and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very, very interesting things. They also decided, we never asked, but they said we will donate half of the money to ICRC. So they gave us $176,000 recently. And this is the proof the proof is in the pudding, that ICRC is not here to spoil the fun or to turn video games about conflict into gardening simulation. Because if we want video games to pass positive messages or whatever the message, through video games, we need violent video games. We need video games that are about war and conflict. Otherwise, again, the gardening simulation's great. It's not very useful for us. And I think this cooperation with, this partnership with Bohemia Interactive Studio is a great example that you can, as game developer, have conversation on a daily basis with humanitarian organizations and people that are not necessarily game developers, and come with interesting scenarios, come out with interesting new ideas. It's not necessarily incompatible. And again, nobody complained. I mean, there's a 95% of positive feedbacks on Steam and others. Bohemia Interactive got a ton of press coverage, and it was very interesting. So, to these questions about that, just to make sure, okay, no, it's games, okay? So nobody is a war criminal because he's playing game. Nobody can break the law of any kind playing whatever character in a game. Just to make sure, in case, just not to be misquoted again. And we all have to relax a little bit about games and all the controversies. You remember the clip about the guys killing with a syringe? I read all the comments. And most of the comments was about one of the German soldiers was a female character. It was like, woo, it's a German female character, it spoiled the game. The game is shit. Come on, I mean, relax a little bit. Okay, this is not a realistic game. It's not about World War II. It's just a game. So yeah, but well, if people would say, it's a bit more shocking to see a doctor poisoning other, characters inside, would be happy, but it's not really the case. Because I want to leave more time for questions, just to end up, because I say that now we also are game developers, and this is true. I have a team of programmers, 3D artists, animator, and what else? Unreal Engine specialist in Bangkok, working on training tools, working on simulation, working on VR tools, even now working on a game. I just made a little compilation of stuff that we do. Maybe we can tune the sound down a little bit. So this is the type of stuff we do. It is not; those are not games. Those are videos or different tools that we use to teach different things to different audience, like police, army, medical personnel. We teach about the law of armed conflict and some other topics, forensic science. The International Committee of the Red Cross has a holistic approach. It means that we do both assistance to populations by providing farmers tools to farm again, fishermen, fishing nets so that they can fish, so they don't have to be assisted all the time, but they can rebuild also their life around their trades. We assist hospitals, doctors. We are the world leading organization for war surgery for a long time. And again, because we are deployed only in conflict area. For example, MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, they are much better in terms of health because they are focusing only on health. We also visit places of detention, prisons all over the planet. It was my job for quite a while. So this is, for example, a tool that we developed for colleagues in Afghanistan, Pakistan that are at risk of, counter this kind of EIDs, improvised explosive device. So we create some kind of simulation to show them the danger, what to pay attention to. This is one of our latest projects, going to be for e-learning on the law of armed conflict. So we have to create everything from scratch, like the weapons and the environments. Some of the stuff are coming from the Unreal Marketplace, but not that much. We have characters that, I'm not very pleased with the character yet, but it's coming piece by piece. Let's not, 2 years ago, we had no clue how to use Unreal Engine 4. So we really started from nothing with my guys learning from tutorial on YouTube. And it's far from perfect, but again, those are not games. Those are using game technology, but it's to discuss about different topics. And we are, as I said, developing a game, but of course it's a bit of a different process than just making a video. Yeah, this is one on sexual violence. This is the soft part of it. We have an entire prison that we created that can be visited in real time or in VR. We do more and more VR, so you can use the Vive and visit the entire place and have conversation with the people. We have conversation trees and so on. So yeah, it's very broad type of stuff that we do. I think the best now is to open for question, because I guess I talked for 30 minutes, so maybe a good time for questions. Maybe we can cut the sounds and just leave the video be, and so I will be very happy to answer all your questions. There's no stupid question, there's no bad questions. I'm happy to answer to anything. Please.
Great presentation. Really appreciate it. The question I have, you compared the data from 2011 to results that you get from the players from the game, and your conclusion they're somewhat similar, right? But what I noticed in the questions at the beginning, if I remember correctly, except for the first question that it has such a low percentage, everything else kind of imply right away what the consequences will be. Actually, if you're going to torture something, you're going to get some information or something. Wouldn't this change automatically kind of perception of the people and how they're going to react? Second, related to the same thing, is when people are in a game, they will react differently when they're just answering questionnaire because they're kind of doing something. And if you want to put it on the next level, if they're in an actual situation, can you even assume that will be results even remotely similar?
Thank you for the questions. And it's not it's not a precise science. You know, it's like the same. I read a lot of stuff about, you know, violence and, you know, the link between real violence and video game violence. The problem with all these kind of things is that for like the cigarettes and other things, you need to have humans that are all the same. So you need like to grow humans in, you know, in batches, like the rhesus monkey, and then put them in front of certain situations, see how they react. And we cannot do that. It won't be ethical to do that. So, of course, the background of the people, everything influences their decision. So it's almost, no, it's not almost, it's impossible to really come with extremely precise statistics and conclusions regarding this issue. What I can see is that there is a bit of a pattern that I can see. But again, it's not an exact science. Doesn't really matter anyway, in a sense that I think our opinion is that it's never negative to promote like giving mercy. For example, what's wrong with giving mercy to an enemy, whether in a game or outside of a game, that is out of combat? Do you really need to every time put a bullet in his face or her face? You know, when I grew up, you know, watching television and movies, or you know, or even now, you know, Star Wars, it's not necessarily that automatically the hero will be a cold-blooded killer and you know, destroy everything on his path. There's some values like, again, mercy, that are not necessarily negative, and I think can deserve a bit more of promotion. But it's also the result of the time. I mean, when I started to study on video game, you know, IHL, International Law in video games, it was like 2010, 11. I mean, it was Christmas for me because I was playing whatever games about conflict, and I was just playing it, everything. I was like a bit fed up at the end, recording everything, and there was so much stuff about torture, about destruction of entire half cities and stuff, and monuments, that I had really an easy time to convince my colleagues that, yeah, video games, you know, it's so massive in terms of scale, and maybe if we engage in nice and constructive discussions with the video game industry, you know, we can, you know, try to work together. Again, it's a positive thing, and what we achieve with Bohemia Interactive, I think, is the proof. We had discussions with Ubisoft. I went to the E3 invited by the what's the name? The lobbyists for the industry in the US. Forget the name. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, I think there's discussions, and there's a lot of stuff. We won't talk too much about it because it's not yet the level of a partnership like we have at Bohemia Interactive Studio. But yeah, it's ongoing, and it's going pretty well. And again, I think nobody noticed major changes in video games recently. Or maybe yes, but it's not necessarily my fault. I think you see less and less torture by the player in-game, but it's just because the times changed, not necessarily because we did all this work, you know, from our side. It's also just sometimes a matter of time. Any other questions? Please. Do we have a microphone? Thank you.
Hi, thanks. You were talking about Ubisoft, and I want to know, what do you think, for example, of a game like Assassin's Creed, where you are punished when you hurt a civilian, but not when you hurt enemy, a guardian of the city, for example?
Okay. Well, normally we don't really comment on games that are not like, you know, now. I mean, everything that is fantasy, because yeah, no, we try to connect with, something that is, nowadays problematic. So Assassin's Creed, you are not really, as far as I understand, you are not really a criminal, but you are also not really, someone who abide by the law, and it's a kind of a fantasy world where, but it's good that there's something about distinction between civilians, people that are just around, and other people that carry weapons, something like that. So it's still a bad thing to necessarily attack like the guard of the city, but the simple fact that there's a distinction between people not bearing arms and people who do, I think it's a positive thing, just like that. In terms of perception, it's funny. I'll give you an example. When there was the release of the DLC from Arma 3, a lot of people, they say, hey, great, you give us cluster ammunitions. We are so happy. And some people said, we're going to make a mission, we take all these civilians, we'll put them in a village, and then I will cluster ammunition the shit out of them. And journalists asked me, yeah, maybe this is not what you wanted to do. And I said, no, it's fine. First of all, it's a game, so relax. Second, they, in purpose to say, fuck the system, say, I will take civilians, put them in a place, and cluster bomb them to death. Because fuck the system, they want me to do something else. By doing it, this person probably understands that this is a bad thing. So he's doing a bad thing in purpose, but as a consequence, he understands that it's a bad thing. If maybe before he was doing it, not knowing. Now, yeah, there's an understanding. So for us, we achieved the goal. It's to make clear what is legal and illegal in the normal, in the real world. So yeah, there's different way of passing messages. It's not always direct. Sometimes just a broad understanding of certain things are good. You're welcome. By the way, that's my email. If you have time, you want to work as a freelancer or contractor, send me your portfolio. I'm always looking for talented people, just by the way. Any other question, please?
Hello.
Hello.
Why in Bangkok?
Why in Bangkok? I was decentralized. The thing is that I was based in Geneva for a while when I started the project, and then I had to expand. Geneva is a super expensive place and not a very good place for game production anyway. So they look for a place to put me with a small budget, and well, I ended up in Bangkok. Bangkok is not necessarily the best place for video game productions. There's kind of a shortage of certain, type of people, like programmers. Most of my teams, like the 3D artists, animators, and a really great artists are all from Thailand. Some of them, they just even don't speak English, but I don't care because they do a fantastic job. I have two programmers, one is German and one is from Cyprus. So yeah, we are now looking to expand, but probably to have another bigger studio in Europe somewhere. Just because we want to go back to a place where we have much bigger potential for recruitment. But yeah, Bangkok is not an obvious choice. I agree. But really great artist. Any other questions? Oh, so I did a bad job.
I wanted to ask, what are your feelings about games that try to showcase like war crimes and things that are bad, but instead of Arma 3, that I guess it showcased the whole Red Cross and helping people in conflicts, like games like Spec Ops: The Line, that instead is a really shocking visual when, for example, you are fighting against armored soldiers, and then you're in a moment of tension, and out of nowhere a civilian pops out, and because of instinct, you shot him, and then you see that you actively shot a civilian. games that try to show a moral, I guess, about war in conflict, but letting you take that choice and then seeing the consequences of that choice.
And it's a fantastic example of how you can add emotional things, you can add depth into the scenario, you can add, something different than just shooting, running and shooting stuff. And I think this is a very good example. I think this is an example that is quite old. There's not that many games like this one. And it's really a great game. I think there's really the atmosphere, the feeling. You don't feel necessarily like a superhero, like indestructible and able to do anything. You can see a little bit of the human factor in it. And this is it. I mean, to be a soldier, I was a soldier. I never shot anyone, but I was as a peacekeeper and as an army officer. And make me sad to see games that portray soldiers as superheroes that, can run like crazy with 20 kilos of equipment on their back and do all these kind of things and never seems to doubt anything, never tired. And, I think it's lacking a little bit on, the character development. Like Battlefield, World War II, you see the cover and you look, this soldier looks super tired. It looked like he was, really been fighting for hours and now he's like super down. And I say, whoa, cool. Let's, I hope that the campaigns will showcase, more of this aspect. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a miss. I don't think that people really got that too much compared to the example you just gave now. And I think there is a lot of good stories and storytelling thing about conflict and war, and because it's really, touch people and affect people a lot. And this is also the role we have as ICRC when we deal with the video game companies, because most video game companies will go and hire the ex-SEAL guy and the special force to get all the accurate stuff. With Bohemia Interactive Studio, we share a lot of stories about what conflict really is, And of course, by being in 85, 87 countries at war, being, on the battlefield all the time, it gives us also another maybe perspective. We can also put game developers in contact with real people that really, let's not forget that we work with Taliban, we work with the Shabab, we work on daily basis with every single rebel groups on the planet and military. We go on in Afghanistan, we go on Monday, we talk about with the coalition force and the Afghan national armies, and the next day we have discussion and drinking tea with the Taliban. This is the way we work, neutral, independent, humanitarian actions. This is why, this is our raison d'être, this is our mandate. And if you want to assist population in countries in conflicts, you need to have this dialogue and these discussions. We work with the Hamas in Gaza the same way we work with the Israeli Defense Forces. And so we have maybe also different perspective. And I think what was also appreciated by Bohemia is that everything is free. I mean, we never charge anything. We are very happy to give our expertise and to spend a lot of time, talking and sharing, and it costs nothing because we won't charge for that. It's also in our interest. But then it's up to the company to pick and choose what they want.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your question. Any other questions? What time is it? I think Ivan is supposed to appear. Please. Thank you. Sorry that you had to run.
Hi. So back in 2009, there was this controversy, an unreleased game called 6 Days in Fallujah. I think I've misspelled it, sorry. It was a game about the Iraq war when the war was still going on. and it was this big controversy, and the game was cancelled. People, the media, and some representatives of the army said that it was unrespectful. And how can we dignify this type of games that show that it's not necessarily unrespectful to make a game about war, about the war that's still going on?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the question. I think it's interesting. 16 Fallujah was, I think, an interesting project.
I know nothing about the game. Maybe it was horrible.
Yeah, it's combat. They tried to recreate the situation in Fallujah and the war at the time, and yeah, I saw. I have the same information than you. But again, for me, again, it's a game. So controversies is like things I've been showing. Sometimes people are focusing on stuff that are not necessarily super important. In the big picture. So yeah, here there was pressure because they said it's still an ongoing. People are coming back in a coffin, and it's bad. But at the same time, you have Medal of Honor, where there was a big controversy because you can play the American soldier or you can play the Taliban. And there's a big controversy saying, oh, how could you let people play the Taliban in a video game? Well, if you can play the American soldier, why can you not play a Taliban if the context is Afghanistan? So again, here, this is where politics comes into play. Okay, it's not just about games. It's not just about public opinion. Then there's politics, and states. Video games are media, and states do have, the power to, influence media or to block certain things as well. So I think there's also they try not to. I think it's in general in the world. There's a desire not to, to prevent media to release whatever they want. But if you look at game, for example, in Germany is very clear about certain rules on games. So if you produce a game in the US, you want to sell it in Germany, you have rules about what kind of things you can or cannot. So, and many more countries now are looking into this example and are thinking about maybe imposing some new rules on video games. So. And our position is to say, well, we prefer to work with the game editors to show a positive aspect of it, not by saying no more violence and no more people shooting each other, but by making slight change maybe in the narrative or in the gameplay that we can say, this is super positive. People will learn something out of it. So yeah, the game is about shooting people, but on our perspective as ICRC, the way it's done, it's convey a positive message about what it is to fight by the rule. So this is why we have a position that is slightly different than most other, NGOs or organizations, because it's our mandate. Mandate is very specific. And this is why we can afford to have these discussions. I can afford to be here and talk about that, or to have partnership with video game industry. Or even for us now producing our own game. And the game is not going to be about driving an ambulance, and it's not going to be about, being a nurse. You saw the game asset we are doing. It's probably going to be a shooter game.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have run out of time. Thank you very much, Christian, for this interesting talk.
Thank you very much.
And now it's time to get ready for the Gamelab Awards, the